Hello, Dr. Keesha here. One of the National Health Awareness Days in May is No Diet Day. And I thought that was an interesting subject to make my Wednesday wellness tip. So here's what we're going to talk about. What a diet actually is. So one of the things that people will do when they hear the word diet will have a whole connotation of meanings. And some of those meanings and the feelings that occur in your body as a result of hearing that word could come from childhood. Maybe you had a mom that dieted all the time and was worried about her weight, didn't like her body. Maybe you were a little bit of a chubby kid and your parents were always on you about your weight. Maybe you were looking at the skinniest kids in your school and you thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be popular because I'm not thin. And so, all this stuff leads to a need to control our food. Now, there's this really interesting way that Ayurvedic medicine looks at this. So Ayurvedic medicine, for those of you that are listening to me and don't know, is the sister science of yoga. It's about 10,000-year-old framework of medicine that literally translates from Sanskrit into English as the science of life. And Ayurveda says that we're a microcosm of the macrocosm of the universe, which means that everything, hi Susan, everything that is out there is inside of us too, including all the elements. And another thing that they say is whatever crystallizes in your mind crystallizes in your body. So whatever meanings and beliefs you make up in your childhood will actually reflect inside of your body. So when we hear this word diet, now I am an integrative medicine expert and I see a lot of patients in my office, and a lot of them have to do different food protocols to help themselves get better. 23 years ago, when I was 30, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I actually had to dramatically change my diet. So we can think about diet in a couple of different ways. Your diet as in the diet that you're eating, or diet as in I'm depriving myself of food. So when I saw this, National No Diet Day, I thought, gosh, that probably is a backlash against the idea of deprivation. So Ayurveda thinks about your cells as having to be nourished, and they have three different energies in them. You have Ojas, which is in charge of your immune system. You have Tejas, which is the cellular intelligence and digestive fire that's inside of that cell. And then you have Prana, which is the communication between the cells and within the cell. And, autoimmune disease is when that Tejas or that fire actually burns up too high and overwhelms the Ojas or the life force immunity of the cell and burns it up. And then you don't have good proper communication between the cells and within the cell, and they start attacking each other. Well, you can also think about this in terms of your metabolism. So when you think about that Ojas, Tejas, and Prana inside the cell, Tejas is your digestive fire, your cellular intelligence. And I don't know if you've ever, have you ever made a fire in a fire pit or in your fireplace, and you were in a hurry? And so you started, the little paper scraps, and I caught lots of fire. Yeah, Susan. So you get all your little scraps of paper, and then you're supposed to get little kindling and get that to light, and then you add the larger pieces of wood, and then finally you can put logs on there. But you have to let air get in between. You can't just lump the logs on top of the paper. It won't catch fire. Well, when we eat constantly, grazing throughout our day, which oftentimes you'll hear nutritional experts say you should eat 6 small, meals a day. But we're not all the same, and that's not actually true for everybody. And if your digestive fire is not strong enough, that's kind of like putting damp wood on top of just a little bit of paper that's just started burning, and your fire will go out and smoke. So you won't have the digestive fire to break down your food properly, and then you don't get the proper nutrients that you can absorb and assimilate and then get rid of the rest. So you'll have these digestive issues that lead to weight gain, or Another thing that a lot of people suffer from, and I know that people that are overweight don't have a lot of compassion for these folks, but is not being able to gain weight. So, either way, you're actually not metabolizing properly. Your digestive fire is not strong enough. So if that digestive fire isn't strong enough, then you can't make your tissue layers. And, in Ayurvedic medicine, we think about 7 different tissue layers that go deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, as you take in your food and you metabolize your food and break it down into nutrients that your body can then absorb and assimilate, from that tissue layer, that proper metabolism, that tissue layer is then created. And ojas, or life force, the immune system of your cell and your body. So it's really essential that our metabolic fire, or what Sanskrit is, it's Agni, okay? That's what Ayurveda calls it, is Agni. If that Agni is not strong enough, or if it's too strong, it's going crazy. Remember, Tejas overwhelming Ojas. And it's like a forest fire throughout your body. You'll have inflammation. And then you're going to have other problems. So you'll have inflammatory digestion with hemorrhoids and burning diarrhea and colitis and all kinds of inflammatory bowel diseases. So that's where your Agni has gone from just your digestive system here all throughout your body, where it's supposed to be housed like you have this nice little furnace right in the middle of your body. In Chinese medicine, they actually do call it your furnace. So we want to make sure that when we think about diet, that we're thinking about the idea of metabolism and digestive fire, or Agni. So, I mentioned that I put people on food protocols in my office, and sometimes they'll have trouble. Like, you want to do, a low inflammatory food plan, which is going to mean no alcohol and no coffee and no sugar. And maybe there's some foods that your body's reactive to because your Tejas has burned up your Ojas. And now you have autoimmune issues, and your immune system is what I call trigger happy. And it's just attacking everything because it's it's showing up on the outside of your gut wall from leaky gut. When that's going on, you don't have good, strong Agni. You don't have good, strong digestive fire, and a food protocol is really important. But if you think about it as a diet, you think about deprivation. So I want to give some food, different kinds of, love the wooden ceiling in your home. Oh, thanks, Carla. I want to give you some different, we'll say, dietary principles to follow so that you don't ever have to think about dieting, okay? So one of the things that if you do struggle with weight, and that's a word that I hear a lot. So remember that a body that's at war with itself, nobody wins, okay? So if you say, I'm at war, I'm struggling with my weight, I've always battled with my weight, my body has betrayed me. These are, this is a language that means there's no win situation. So we want to think about how to be in a collaborative relationship with the body, how to stoke that digestive fire so it's just right and it stays where it's supposed to, right in the middle in that furnace, so that when you bring in your food, you can get your nutrients and absorb and assimilate them properly and eliminate what you don't need. Now, here are some principles. Ayurvedic medicine says, only eat what you can hold in a cupped hand. Wow. When we think about the American portion sizes, that seems like such a tiny amount, just what can fit in your cupped hand. You can go crazy and eat what you fit in 2 cupped hands, and that's still less than most portion sizes that are the American way. So I started buying rice bowls several years ago and thinking about, okay, what can just fit in a rice bowl? Because, when the Blue Zones study was done by National Geographic several years ago, I interviewed the author of that a few times. And, this was looking at where the longest living people, okay, are centurions in the world. And Okinawa, Japan was one of the places. And I spent 3 years in Japan as a child. And sure enough, rice bowl, that's it. It's what can fit inside the cup palm of your hand. And you eat with chopsticks, which Americans are a little slower at, so it slows you down. Japanese can actually shovel that in pretty quickly. But, that's still a small portion. Well, you have to think about that when you think about the longest living people in the world. No wonder they don't put big logs on top of, paper as it's just starting to burn, they're actually letting their digestive fire work and kindle and burn what they're bringing in properly without putting so much stuff on top of it that it just puts the fire out. So I want you to always think about the fire in a fireplace, or when you're camping, if you've tried to start a fire, you want to make sure that you're giving it plenty of air. So another thing that Ayurveda says is in your stomach, you want to make sure that you keep a third of it when you're eating is with food. A third of it is going to be some warm liquid, just sips. You don't drink like a whole big gulp of ice drink of some kind. You just want warm lemon water, sip, sip. So that's a third. And then you leave a third empty. Well, the reason for that is if you were to think about like making cookies, for example, and you've got a bowl and you put in all the dry ingredients and then you put in all the wet ingredients and then you stir, if you've put everything to the top of your bowl and you start to stir, then it's going to make a mess. It's going to go everywhere. There's no room for the stirring. Your stomach needs that too. It needs that space in there to stir, for the acid to break everything down and move it into your small intestine. So you've got to make sure you leave some room, which means don't eat until you're full. You just eat until you're satiated. And so sometimes the parts of our brain that indicate satiation, satiety, don't work. And some of that's because we're eating too late in the day. So that's another principle. Don't eat after 5 or 6 p.m. Just eat until that point, 3 nice meals a day, that fit in the palm of your hand. Stop eating at 5 or 6 p.m. and let your digestive system then have a break to really work. So I always give this example when I have a patient in my office and I'm talking about this, where I'll say, okay, I'm sitting here with you, you're across the desk from me, and if my office staff were to come in the door and constantly interrupt me and bring me things to sign and tell me I have to call in prescriptions or I have to call a doctor and I have to consult with somebody else, and I'm interrupting this appointment with you, I'm not going to be very effective or efficient as a medical care provider for you. But as it is right now, everybody leaves me alone. You and I can speak, I can listen to your story, I can be the medical detective that I am and put all the clues together and give you some coaching, some guidance on what to do next. That's the way our digestive systems want us to work too. They want us to not keep interrupting, not keep putting more things in front of it to have to do. So when you finish eating by 5 or 6 p.m., your liver dumps in the middle of the night, 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. Your lymphatic system goes along, and you could think of your lymph as little dump trucks that are going along, and they're picking up the garbage sacks that your cell leaves on the outside of the cell membrane of its trash that it needs to get rid of. That's what your lymphatic system does, and it moves it along. So every part of your body that has to do with getting rid of your toxins happens at night. So you don't want to have been interrupting the flow. You don't want so many trash bags piling up that the little dump trucks from the lymphatic system can't get them, because otherwise you wind up with trouble. You wind up with, constipation, which means that you're not dumping the trash from your colon. And if you don't do that, then bad pathogens can build up in there. Think about not emptying your kitchen trash. That piles up, then you're going to attract vermin into your kitchen, which you don't want. So all of these principles are very simple if you think through the anatomy and the physiology and the needs of your body. Your needs are, you need a good, strong digestive fire, so you don't want to be throwing ice water on top of it. You don't want to be throwing food on top of it at all times. You need to have some circulatory air in there to allow the fire to build. So you don't want to fill your stomach all the time so that you're stuffed and full. You just want to be satisfied. And then you don't want to throw food down there at night when it needs to actually do its biggest jobs. And that's, when you're resting, everything else in your body is not. It's doing its job so that you can wake up refreshed the next morning without bags under your eyes, without skin breakouts, without constipation, right? With full energy and zest and vitality, waking up and saying, okay, I'm ready to live my life purpose. God, what do you have in mind for me today? Right? And so you really want to You want to be able to be an instrument in the hands of life so that you can be of service to other people. Well, you can't be of service if your digestifier has not been working well. So we want to throw out this idea of calories in, calories out. What we really want to do is we want to say, okay, how much does my body's unique constitution, what does it require from me? Now, each of us has a different body type. We have Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And Vata dosha, from the Ayurvedic terminology, is usually the thin string bean that's either a short or a tall person. A Pitta person is going to be sort of a normal body type. And we want to make sure that, that person usually has a strong digestive fire until they burn themselves out. And then the Kapha person is more the bigger boned, thicker hair, thicker lips, thicker skin, and usually more body weight. Each one of those different dosha types has a different dietary need. And so it's not basically being put on a diet, it's actually listening to what your body is asking from you for its nutrients, if you think about it as fuel, so that you can move around and live your life purpose. So what I want to encourage you to do is look at your tongue every morning. If your tongue has a coating on it that's other than saliva, it means your digestifier is not strong. So you want to look at that and say, oh, I need to pay attention. Now, this video obviously isn't going to give you everything for every single person, but I do have a lot of this in solving the autoimmune puzzle. So if you could look back in the Ayurvedic parts of it, if you've already read it, then just refresh it, because I have tongue diagnosis in there, and I have the ways that you feed yourself properly. And I have a cookbook coming out that's going to talk about different dosha-specific food needs too. But I just want to eliminate the idea of having to deprive. Diet meaning deprivation. Let's do what this National No Diet Day encourages us to do, and move out of this idea that we have to weigh in and we have to be paying close attention to how we look, and instead moving inward and saying, what is my purpose in this life? How can I be of service? And how can I actually have the highest vitality to reach my potential so that I can be of service? When you move it from what I look like on the outside to how I feel on the inside, and the cellular need of the ojas and the tejas and the prana and the agni, and not building up what we call toxicity in the body, or ama, then you're going to have it all figured out, because you're going to be listening really well to your body. You're going to be loving your body enough to pay attention to see what it needs. It does not need Oreos. It doesn't need soda pop. It's not asking you for any of those things. That's a sadness inside of you, or an emotion that you're this, and I'm going to make sure that I'm loving my body enough to give it the fuel that it needs and build up its digestive fire, so I have strong Agni so I can live my life purpose. So to me, that's the meaning of No Diet Day. So as you go through your day-to-day, be super conscious about what it is that you are selecting to put in your mouth. Think about putting it only in a rice bowl. Think about leaving a third of your stomach space open for your body to do its digestive process. Think about not eating after 5 or 6 o'clock this evening. And if you're hungry, go get some warm lemon water. Your body has to readjust. When I started doing this, it took me a while to not be hungry, about 2 weeks, because I was used to grazing. So, and then my body acclimated and it started liking it. So, if you need to gain weight, then you're going to pay attention to what your body's asking you for. And if you need to shed a few pounds so that you have higher vitality, then you're going to be paying attention to that. All right, everybody, have a fantastic No Diet Day.